Alright, so this is the final one video tutorial. So we're going to start with number one. And notice that first off on the directions it talks about what this final is going to assess you on, and then you need to show all your work. In order to understand this, I believe showing your work helps, because then you can go back and you guys can see, oh, that's how I did that when you're studying for this thing. Okay, so for numbers 1 to 2, all we have to do is answer true or false. So we have to see if this side is equivalent to this side. That's what the equal sign means. So I'm testing to see if you guys know what's going on here if you have a double negative. Remember with parentheses, if I have like a negative 2 on the outside, we have to distribute that into each of the terms. Okay? So if I have a negative just on the outside of parentheses, that's like saying that there's this negative 1, this magical negative 1, invisible negative 1 that's right here that we have to distribute to both things. So if I have a negative right here on the outside, it's like a negative 1. So negative 1 times a negative, that gives me a positive. Or whenever you see the sleepy guy, remember the sleepy guy? Right? Whenever you see the sleepy guy, you wake him up. Okay, so that means that on this side it's 41 plus 9. And on this side it's 41 minus 9. So these are not equivalent, so we would say false. Okay? Next, again we see the sleepy guy, but this negative 1 is going to be going to both of these terms. Okay? So that's going to become a positive. So watch, we can leave, change, and then take the opposite of each of these if you wanted. So we have 59 plus 6 minus 11. Over on this side we have 59 plus 6 minus 11. And so that checks out. So this one is true. All right. Next one, it says find the result. Here what I'm testing is PEMDAS. All right, so PEMDAS tells us to do multiplication before we add or subtract. So 9 times 5 is 45, and then 45 minus 7. 45 minus 7 is what? There you go. 38. Okay, over here, we could do inside the parentheses first, or we could use the distributive property first. It doesn't matter. I mean, the distributive property works. That's why you can kind of bypass the parentheses first. But we could do inside the parentheses. 5 minus 7, that'll give us negative 2. Negative 2 times 9 will give me negative 18. Okay? All right. Next, it says, what basic rule of arithmetic? So whenever you guys see this thing that says basic rule is what we're used to, property. Okay? What property is going on here? So what I always check first is I check the order. Okay? Because I know if you change the order, that's going to be commutative. Okay? So C for change. Change the order. Come on. Change. Come on. Get that. Okay, there it goes. Change order is commutative property. Okay? So I see 1683, 1683. The order didn't change, so that means it's not commutative property. Next, what I do is I look for the parentheses. If the parentheses change, the grouping changed, then that means that that's associative property. So 16 and the 8 are in parentheses, and then over here the 8 and the 3. So since the grouping changed, that means that that's associative. All right? Associative property of addition. All right. Next, basic rule. So it's talking about a property again. And here I see that it has parentheses, so maybe it's associative property, but then I don't see any groupings over here, so that means it's not associative property, and they're not even the same numbers on either side, so it's not the commutative property. So let's try to understand what's going on here. I see 12 and well, if I were to distribute this, because I see that there's no parentheses over here, 12 times 3 is 36, and then 12 times 2 is 24. So that's what's happening here. We got the distributive property. Okay? Not too bad. All right, next it says a bowling ball, a 5/8 bowling ball is slightly too small to fit your finger. So you have 4 more bowling balls, but then they're in 30 seconds rather than 8s. So all we're going to do is just take this 5/8, and we're going to change this to have the same denominator, okay, as these ones. Now remember, I'm not changing the fraction in terms of its value. Okay, it's still going to be the same weight, but all I'm doing is just changing the denominator so that I could see it in the same scope. So how do I get from 8 to 32? Good. So if we multiply the bottom by 4, we would end up with a fraction that has a 32 as a denominator. But then whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do also to the top. So we see that we're dealing with a 20, 32nd. So 20 over 32 is too small. Okay, so this is too tiny. So which one should we choose next? Yeah, I mean, obviously these ones are smaller than that, so it's got to be the 21. Okay, so 21 over 32, that's going to be our answer for that one. 8. Oh, okay, here we go. Number 8. It says, come up with 6 fractions that are equivalent to negative 3. Well, what do you guys think? What are some fractions that are equivalent to negative 3? Okay, well, negative 3 over 1, that's good. Okay, what else equals negative 3? I heard you. Good. Okay, so negative 6 over 2. Negative 24 over 8. Good. Anything that equals negative 3. So negative 24 over 8. Give me some more. 27. Okay, negative 27 over 9. Good. You're killing this. Good. Negative 9 over 3. Hey, can you guys come up with any where it's a double? Well, let's see. How can we do a negative on the top and negative on the bottom for this one? How about can we do a negative on the bottom and a positive on the top? Yeah, we could do that. Okay, so let's come up with one more that's like that. What's the last one that you guys had? Okay, so 18 over negative 6. So the rule of thumb here is whenever you have a fraction that has negatives, if you got a negative on the top, let's say it's negative 3 over 1, this is equivalent to 3 over negative 1, which is also equivalent to having the negative in the front, and then you have 3 over 1 like so. So it doesn't matter where the negative goes, just think it's a negative divided by a positive, so the answer is going to end up being negative. Okay?